Hello everybody. Um, I did the cost analysis of making a quilt. That video is from 8 years ago. On my other channel, it has still only gotten like 5,000 views in 8 years on that channel because that channel is not specifically dedicated to quilts and quilting. It has quilts, it has chickens, it has homesteading, it has frugal living, it has purposeful living, it has, anti-consumerism. It's got all these subjects on there. So the quilts are only one playlist in there, and so that kind of got lost. And I guess that's because it wasn't a quilt channel. It's not in the title of the channel. But when I started to decided to separate this two subjects out. I love most of the world, quilting and chickens, and I love chickens. And I'm going to talk about chickens on this channel, not just quilts. All of a sudden, something happened, and as my friend said, she said, you just hit the algorithm jackpot. All of a sudden it was coming up in searches, and I think it's because it has quilts in the name of the channel, and so specifically people were searching for that, and it came up, and boom. Now brand new channels don't normally get pushed forward in the algorithm that way, with so few subscribers. I mean, we went from 20 to, I don't know what we have now, almost 300. I don't even know what we've got now. It just went ballistic. And so many of you have expressed the same sentiments. And then I talked about my philosophy. In the next video, I talked about my philosophy of quilting, making them, selling them, and gifting them. Well, I didn't really tell the story. I don't believe I told it on that cost analysis either. That story that actually precipitated that me to work up that cost analysis. And I'll tell you the story. And before I do though, let me just say that no matter what people do, how they react to your craft, don't let them steal your joy. If you enjoy this, you do it, and you relish it, and you bathe in it, and you have fun with it, and it's soothing and calming. That's why I did several of the quilting videos to music. When I did my I was finishing my lap quilt that went with our new couch that we got recently. I decided I was going to tape some of the process, some of the process, because watching people quilt, free motion quilt, and then listening to calming music at the same time, I think we all need a little bit of that calming in this crazy world. But I didn't tell the story of an incident that happened 2 years before that video came out. And I told the story on the forum that I belong to, and I've been a member of for 19 years, backyardchickens.com. For a while I was a moderator there, but yes, I got burned out and I quit that part, but I've been a member there for 19 years. The badge on it probably says 16, I think, but the forum existed before the current owner bought it and revamped it and made it what it is today. So I belonged to it before he took over. And I made a video. Something happened to me in 2013. I think it happened, I think it was January 2013. And it made me start a thread on the forum in the hobbies section. We have quilters on there, a lot of quilters, and it said, grr, wanting something for nothing, no appreciation for fine hand quilting. A rare rant by me. And I told the story of what happened with this neighbor, and this one really irked me, and it changed the way I feel about making quilts for other people, probably forever. I did a couple after that, but let me tell you, it takes a lot of thought and a lot of consideration before I even thought about doing it for any amount of money, because I don't have a business. This is just what I do I do this for my sanity. It's my creative outlet. I've done it since 1986. Granted, then it was hand piecing and hand quilting because I had machine phobia, but in any case, I printed out the story because it's so long ago. I thought, gosh, I'm bound to, sorry about that, I was trying to figure this, I'm bound to forget some of the details of it. But here goes. I was commissioned to make a bed runner for my neighbor. It was really a runner to protect her mother's cedar chest. And this is a neighbor who's older than I am. She doesn't live here anymore. I think she's lost her husband since then and gone off to live somewhere else in another state. But she still owns the house down the road. And she was what I would have considered a friend at the time, because we've lived here 21 years. But in 2013, she wanted a bed runner to basically cover her mother's cedar chest at the foot of her king-size bed, and to complement her current comforter decor, which is like an abstract wash of seafoam to sagey kind of greens and mixed with rosy and almost coral pinks. And some of my favorite color combinations. I love those color combinations. I told her I'd probably have to order. I had a lot of fabric already in those tones that I could use, and I would probably have to order about $25 worth of fabric. Now, this was a long time ago, 2013, okay? So you got 10 years ago. And I still ordered from thousands of bolts back then, right? And anyway, I was going to basically give her my labor more or less, pretty much. That's what it ended up being. But I was going to have to order the materials. I wouldn't, and I'd most likely not use every little bit of it on her project, but I would, and I would charge her for this machine piece and hand quilted bed runner $90, including the fabric. For a machine piece and hand quilted runner, truthfully less than I'd charge for anybody else. But when I looked back at that story, I couldn't even remember what I charged her, and I thought, boy, you undercharged. But she was, at the time I thought of her as a friend, not just a neighbor. Well, that kind of changed later, but not because of the quilt exactly, but this didn't bode well for the friendship anyway. But the final result of the bed runner after I made it, and I'll put a picture of that up here, the finished runner. The final result was 30 inches wide by 80 feet. 80 feet, that's funny. That would be really big, wouldn't it? 80 inches long. So it's wide as a regular bed, and it's 30 inches wide. So that's a good size wide bed runner. It was made with, of course, all the 100% cotton, first quality fabrics from thousands of bolts. It sells excellent fabrics at great prices. Still, even now, they've only gone up to average maybe $7 a yard. Some are a little higher, some of them are a little lower. They have sales too, that kind of thing. But they only sell high quality cottons, as far as I know. Unless they've changed something in the last couple of years, that's all they sell. So what you can always order from them with some confidence. But anyway, that's where I was going to order from. Most of them at the time were less than $5 a yard. I was going to take advantage of their sales, and at the time it was less than $5 a yard for this superior quality fabric. So here's where all this, it really got to be really kind of crazy. My neighbor worked at a senior center in town. Apparently, I volunteered there, and apparently she told these ladies, see, I had made her some mug mats. Little bitty mug mats, not like quilting on them, they're just kind of like a fold kind of thing and sew together with batting that you can put your coffee mug on, or your wine glass, or whatever you want to put on it to protect your table. And I'd made her a little set of these mug mats. And that's what started this whole thing, right? She knew I quilted. But she works at the senior center and told these ladies, I guess, what I was doing and what she was paying me. Without seeing, and these women, these old busybodies, without seeing the quilt, without knowing the size or the quality and the expense I was going to, without knowing my skill at hand quilting, 8 to 10 stitches per inch, and the time had, almost 30 years of experience. Then I'm about 37 years of experience now, but something like, so this was like 10 years ago. They started spouting off to her. You're paying too much for that. they told her. You could get, they told her I could get much cheaper fabric somewhere else. Less than $4 and $5 a yard, they're telling her. Of course, I was insulted and I was angry. And, you know, I was ranting on the thread, and I wrote this down because I can't remember all these details, right? So I wrote out this thing. Oh gosh, it's about to rain, and this paper's picked up a lot of moisture here. But you know, I said if one more person denigrates my pricing for custom hand quilted work, I swear I'm going to tell them Wally World is their friend and go waste their money there. Would they work for less than 50 cents an hour? I guess I did, didn't I? But you know, this was like a project for a friend. So that's what I thought at the time, right? You know, but of course not. And they expect me to do that and throw the fabric in for free. And if I have the fabric in my stash, it's still not free. I already paid for it. And if I use it in this project, I don't have it for another project, right? So I'm going, I could have found cheaper fabrics? Where? What are you talking about? The worst quality cottons at Walmart, you know, just so-so quality cottons at Walmart at the time were like $4 a yard. They're more now. They have some better fabrics now than they used to. But you know, the cheap cottons are never a good choice with a quilt. You know, these women probably came from a time when everybody cut up their shirts, and they're, like somebody said, you know, they used old clothing and flannels and polyesters and all that kind of stuff. And they think, I can just cut up my clothes and make that quilt for her, I guess. I don't know what they thought. But, you know, bad quality fabric, you know, cotton fabric, the kind you can just kind of see through in the light, it doesn't wear well, and it doesn't wash well, and it won't last. And, you know, I put the picture of the runner up in question. The outer border was such a wonderful heavy cotton. It felt like flannel. It wasn't flannel, but it was a very hefty cotton print. I got 2 yards of it for just $4.95 each. I mean, it was spectacular fabric. At least half the cost of any quilt shop in the United States. And she wanted paisleys, not much. She had specific ideas. She wanted paisleys, not much floral. You know, it was a challenge with these colors, you know, pinks and sagey and mint greens and things like that. It's kind of difficult to find some of the patterns and the colors that she needed, including that large border fabric. In addition to, they had, you know, I found quite a few paisleys, and I found some Florentines and some flourishes and, you know, botanicals and things like that. And if it was going to be a bed quilt, I would have done extra quilting in the outer border. But it was going to live on her cedar chest. It wasn't going to be used on a bed. So I quilted it, but you know, I would have done more extensive quilting. But then again, I would just lost more money if I had, right? But anyway, I thought it was really catty of these women to say that to her, which first of all made her feel bad and stupid for paying what she did, which she was getting away with highway robbery. For a custom quilted piece they hadn't even seen and didn't have a clue what it was all about. I thought it was quite rude, honestly, to her and to me. But anyway, I had an update on this story on Backyard Chickens. I said, and I'll read it to you, I said, good grief, my neighbor just called. I had said if someone knew some secret place to get top quality fabric for less than thousands of bolts sales, I would have to hear about it. She asked the woman who said I could find cheaper fabric where she was talking about. Well, she gave her the name of some individual person in the next state over, across the state line. I said, now how am I supposed to know about some secret fabric coven in the next state? Seriously? I wasn't going to drive there either. So, you know, and I doubt she had the quality fabrics that I would have been using for less than what I'd been paying. But still, that's not even the point. You know, I didn't even charge the neighbor for the fabric I bought and used, or for the batting, because I already had the batting here, so I didn't even charge her for it, even though it cost me to buy it in the first place. I charged her for a commissioned custom hand quilted bed runner and all that entails, which includes hunting down the right fabrics, the time, the quality of threads used, the experience of the quilter, the hours of labor, the design process, all that. And if I had not bought one fabric for this project, I'd still have to consider materials and what I charged her because they're used up. I no longer have them for something else. But yet, she got that bed runner for 90 bucks. And I actually told her, I'm going to make it, and if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. After all this stuff with the little biddies at the senior center, I told her flat out. I said, they're wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. And if you don't like it when it's finished, you don't have to buy it. And I mean that. Because I knew I could sell that just about to anybody else. So it's kind of like just a typical story of some of the disappointments that we end up with. And this is, like I said, that was 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago. So things were a lot cheaper then. I felt I was doing it for a friend who turned out to be, in the end, years later, not a friend at all. But people will surprise you. People will, and this is in all parts of your life. People you think you know, you don't really know. So anyway, that was just one story, and that is what made me do that cost analysis. I stewed over that for the next 2 years because I didn't really want to have anything to do with her after that, and I cooled off a little bit toward her because of the way she was snarky with me, and I never saw who these people were that it was talking about. It's like, yeah, go to the next state over. Go travel over there and go get cheaper fabric. It's like, what are you talking about? You can't get cheaper fabric for the quality I got from Thousands of Bolts. And even Walmart probably was better what that lady had. So they didn't know what I was paying for it in the first place. So anyway, at first I thought it was rude for them to tell her that she was paying too much and to do that. It was rude and catty to say that to her. And it was actually in turn rude and catty for her to say that to me. So... but we all have these disappointments, and you can't let them steal your joy. Don't let them steal your joy. Just be a little bit more selective unless this doesn't bother you. Maybe this doesn't bother you. If it doesn't bother you, that everybody has their threshold, their limits. That if people cross it, that's it. But if it doesn't bother you, that's fine. And I'm not saying you should get something back for a gift. This is something that somebody paid for, and they paid way less than it was worth. Way less. Later, my best friend who, she died about 1.5 years ago, unexpectedly. And we had a business on Etsy. We had a business, Blue Roo Creations. She was Cherokee, so she did beadwork, and she made homemade soaps, and we crochet, and I did the quilting. She could quilt too. She was very talented. She could brain tan deer hides. Had this beautiful creation that she made for me with like 30,000 beads, where she beaded a portrait of my rooster, who is my avatar on this channel. His name was Suede. He was a blue Orpington rooster. He passed away in 2012 at going on 6 years old. But she beaded me she loved him. She beaded this beautiful, beautiful portrait of him on deer hide that she had tanned, and has feathers of him and his hens and some of her hens and one of his sons that she had. And that's priceless. That is priceless to me. You could not pay me $1 million. I wouldn't take for that, because she gave it to me, and now it's all I have left of her, and the other things that she gave me, of course, and that means something. But when we had our Etsy shop, crocheted items didn't sell. They didn't sell. She sold some soaps and stuff, but and I didn't really sell a lot of quilts either. Nobody really wanted to pay. Because there are people who are, even though it's their business what they sell things for, they are kind of, I see a lot of women every day, they're underselling their talents. And that's up to them, what they want to sell their talent for. I don't tell somebody that they need to do that, but when I did the cost analysis, all it was so that people could understand that even with the cheap labor, For this quilt that you're talking about, you would have to pay something like $1,300. And they're not willing to, most people are not willing to pay that at all. They think they're going to pay 50 bucks to buy something like at Walmart. I have somebody shooting across the way. It happens a lot down over here because we have a homestead. But right now I want to do more quilting by music. I think it's it's restful for me, it's restful for you, and it gives me practice. And I want to do some more of that. But of course, finding the time uninterrupted on a homestead when you've got gardens and you've got chickens and you've got a disabled veteran husband and you've got other things, it can be a little tricky to have uninterrupted quilt time. And sometimes I just say, I'm going to quilt. I'm putting my earbuds in so I don't hear anything out here. And I'm going to just zone out with my machine for a while. And, of course, my husband always says, sure, go ahead. But in any case, it's just sometimes hard to find the time. So when I find the time, it's precious to me. Oh, comes the thunder. It's precious to me. And that's another thing that adds into the value of a quilt. So anyway, I don't know if this was helpful for you, but I thought I'd explain what actually got me started on that. And yeah, we just have to let it go. You have to let it go after a while and just learn from it. And if you want to change what you do for people, just decide. As Angel Walter says, decide who's quilt worthy. Anyway, that's it. Talk to you later. Bye, y'all.